6:01 p.m. on October 13th, 2021. We'll begin with a roll call. Please say here or present once I say your name. Advait. Adagarla. Ulrich. Brecht. Blythe. Carter. Claiborne. Cooper. Crabb. DeVore. Filippi. Finaldi. Gates. Goff. Hayes. Larson. Lent. Mahoney. Rios. McCready. Paulson. Rizvik. Ruley. Seth. Simmons. Skaggs. Stout. Thornton. Wigmeister. Weathers. Yang. Zuber. We'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance led by Speaker Weathers.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll move on to the program, which is a travel assistance project.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Tom Sun. I'm the Director for International Student Experience here at the Student Government. And I'm really excited today to share with you guys a very fun project we've been working on for the past couple of weeks. I want to share some updates and also looking ahead what we're going to do and how you guys can help. Next slide, please. So today we'll talk a little bit about the project itself, and I'll talk about some of the findings we found from a recent survey that we did on international students. And we'll talk about the next steps of the project and, again, how you guys can help us making this become a real thing. So a quick overview. So the whole idea behind this travel assistance project is to help international students travel home and back from home during breaks, so both summer and winter breaks, as well as helping them store their personal belongings over the summer, because a lot of them don't have an apartment contract or a residential lease, or I guess the other way around, over the summer. So they don't have any material stuff, so we're looking into ways to help that. So this project is targeting international students first because of my role. But, well, the reason for that is because international students here have fewer connections, such as friends and families here in the States. They also don't have a permanent home in the US, so that makes stuff like storage and traveling a little bit harder. But the goal for this project is to be eventually scaled up to help all students. I've been in contact with our Director of Student Affairs, DT, to see how we can look for ways to expand this to all students here on campus. So as far as the timeline goes, so we just finished our survey and data analysis for the project to make sure we're on the right track for what we're doing. And currently, we're exploring all the options that we can do to solve those problems. And hopefully, by this winter break, we'll be able to start implementing some of our plans. So I guess first we'll talk about the survey then. So it is a quadric survey. It was sent out to all international students on campus. Most of the responses we got was from graduate students. I know the graph is kind of small, but the first shows where people live. So as you can see, most of them live on campus, either through ISU residence or SUV, but about half of them live off campus. And then the next few questions are about traveling. So number one is, how often do you go home per year? As you can see, the most majority of the students travel home either once or twice per year. Now, some of them less than once, and a few of them have more than 2 or 3. And what was really interesting to see was how long their journeys take. As you can see on the graph, a vast majority of them actually take more than 24 hours to go home. Now, that's partially due to the long flights because of the distance, but also because of layovers and just waiting periods between different modes of transportation and stuff like that. So the next question was kind of an open-ended one about what is the most stressful aspect of your travel. The most response we got was the length of their flights, as you saw from the previous graph, as well as the logistics of organizing the travel. The next one is the length of layovers. Next one, traveling to airport, which we're targeting. Cost, luggage and bags is another aspect we're targeting. And lastly, immigration. That was the stress about getting through the immigration every time they come back to the States. And one of the quotes that I found really interesting was that cheap flights have very long layovers and shorter flights are too expensive. So that's kind of what caused the bar graph we saw before. So one of the areas we're targeting is to help students getting to the Des Moines airport and back, because that's a very achievable goal for us to do, and I think will be very impactful for students' travel. So from the data, we saw that most students actually get to the Des Moines airport by taxi or Uber. And then the next biggest section is friends and family. So on that, what I saw from the survey was that there's complaint it's hard to book an Uber from here to the Des Moines airport because of length. So sometimes it's just not available. And even if it is, you can imagine the cost is very high. Now, there are commercial shuttle buses available traveling from here, from the intermodal facility right off campus to the Des Moines airport. But as you can see, a small amount of students are actually using it. The next is how stressful it is to get there. And as you can see, a vast majority of them said somewhat stressful or a little bit stressful. And then the next couple questions are about their summer residence. So about 60% of our respondents said that there is a gap in the summer between apartment leases or residence contracts where they don't have a permanent place in Ames. And of all the students, 35% said they just don't have a place to go in general. And part of that problem is due to how the Ames apartment lease and contracts are set up, because all the property management companies needs a few weeks between every year to clean stuff up, get things ready. But what that causes is everybody in Ames just kind of homeless for a couple of days. And now that might not be a big problem for students from the US because they can crash at a friend's place or just travel home for those days. But if you're international students, if you don't have anywhere to go for 2-3 days, it doesn't really make sense to make those 24-hour plus journeys home and then back in a few weeks. And kind of connected to not having a place to live, the problem with summer storage is also a big thing that we saw, again, because they're between contracts, they don't have anywhere to put their stuff. So some students resort to carry all their stuff home and then back again, which can make things really difficult. And then one of the quotes I saw was that sometimes I have to get rid of all of my stuff because it's difficult to find someone to keep my things. So we want to look into ways to solve the traveling and the storage problem. So what we're doing right now is exploring some of the options on how we can solve those two main problems that we're targeting. So number one, with the going to the airport and back, we're looking at free or discounted shuttle tickets through the commercial shuttle companies. And in the past, we actually saw a bill from the student government in 2007. Thank you, Mason, for bringing this up. Where the student government funded transportation for international students from here to Des Moines and back in the beginning and end of breaks. So we're looking at potentially rebooting that program. Also, due to our relationship with SkyRide, we're trying to see if there's any way we can charter SkyRide buses to, again, help provide free transportation. And the last option is to have some kind of volunteer-based carpooling program where students can volunteer to drive their peers to the airport and back, or as they are going there themselves, they can take someone with them. And then on the storage side of things, we're looking into the possibility of storing students' belongings in vacant dorms over the summer, because most of them, they're not used over summer, so why not have students store their items there? And also looking into commercial storage solutions where private companies provide services that pick up their stuff in the beginning of the break and drop them off when it's time to move back in. So those are stuff we're doing, but as you can see from the survey, there's a lot of gaps that still needs to be covered. So in the backlog, quote unquote, there's some issues that you guys can help looking at. So number one is the cost and length of air travel, the stressful immigration processing, and students physically have nowhere to live, and how to expand this program to all the students. So that's a quick overview of the project, what we're doing and what we found. Is there any questions?
President Campbell?
Tom, I want to say thank you. Thank you for your incredible work on this and for the information you've collected. And to everyone, just Tom, thank you for all that you're doing. You make an awesome addition to student government, and we're lucky to have you. For an ask to everyone in this room and on our part, what can we be doing with this information? Is it something that you would like us to spread for people's awareness? Are there stakeholder groups in the university we can reach out to? Do you want us to continue collecting information? What would be your ask of us in this room tonight to help move these things forward?
Yeah, of course. So I guess currently, again, we're in the process of looking at all the solutions possible and find out what's the best one or what is the combination of many solutions that we can use to make this problem go away. So we targeted a few, as I said in the back couple slides, but I'm sure there are other options that we can consider that we haven't looked at. So, if you know any resources or anyone that you know that could help with, the storage and traveling, please let me know, and I'll be really happy to look at all the options. Obviously, we want to find the best one possible out there. And the other one was kind of, I guess, about information gathering. So one thing we're not too sure right now is how much need is there for the shuttles. We don't want to, what's the demand for the shuttle services if we were to use it? And what's the demand for the storage services if we're going to use it? Because eventually I do want to expand this to all students. So I want to see, we saw from the international student side, what are the needs, but I'm curious to see what it is from the student body in general. So I'm sure there's some information gathering that can be done on this. And this is something I talked to our director of student services, Aditi, about too. Yeah.
Senator Carter?
Thanks, this is really great. I'm curious, when looking at this information, were you polling all international students, or did you look at the undergraduate and graduate students together?
Yeah, so the survey was sent out through a newsletter through the International Students and Scholars Office. So it was sent to every single international students here on campus, but it was a, volunteer-based survey. So just from the data we saw, more graduate students respond to the survey than undergraduate, but we know there's more undergraduate students in general. So yeah, I guess in a way, there is also a need to just get a more complete look at this. Mm-hmm.
Senator Thornton?
Have you spoken to housing about potentially pushing their move-in date back further, earlier into August?
With the moving, with Iowa State residents?
Yes.
Or, we have not, but we are currently in conversation with Department of Residents, just in general, to talk about this project. So one thing we've asked is to see the possibility of storing items, but we have not explored the option of having them moving in early. But that can definitely be a big help. So I guess the main problem with having the gap is more on the private off-campus side of things, because I think Iowa State Residence Hall does a really good job of making sure everything connects up so you don't have a day or two gap. But the main problem coming from private property management companies, where they do have a week or a couple days. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then my last question is, are there scholarships specifically for international students that they might be able to apply for housing?
I am not aware of any specific for housing. I'm aware that the International Students and Scholars Office offer a grade-based scholarship, just a general purpose scholarship that applies to your UBIL, and that just based on your GPA or your, ACT score if you're a new student here.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any more questions? All right, thanks so much, Tom.
Thank you, guys.
Next, we'll move on to open forum. Open forum is an open discussion of issues relevant to students. If you'd like to speak, please approach the podium, and there's a maximum of 10 minutes to speak. Is everyone here for open forum tonight? All right, we'll move on to adopting the agenda. Are there any additions to tonight's agenda? Senator Advait? Senator Rulli? Been a motion and a second to move a bill to the bottom of general orders. Is there any objection? Finance Director Zastro. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to move that to the top of general orders. Is there any objection? All right, go ahead and move that to the top of general orders. Is there any more additions to tonight's agenda? Senator Debate?
033Y, adding the Director of Student Services to the bylaws to the bottom of new business.
All right, there's been a motion to move that bill to the bottom of new business. Is there a second? Is there any objection? All right, we'll move that to the bottom of new business. It's been a motion to adopt tonight's agenda. Is there a second? Any objection? Seeing none, the agenda is adopted. Moving on to the approval of minutes from last week. Been a motion to approve last week's minutes. Is there a second? Any objection? All right, last week's minutes are approved. Now moving on to committee reports, we'll go on to rules with Speaker Weathers.
Hello, everybody. Rules Committee had a confirmation hearing for a new senator that we'll see tonight from the residence halls. IRHA appointed them. Kushi Patel, Kush is her name, and she passed through the committee favorably. Rigorous questions, answered them all well. She's more than qualified, but you can all make that judgment for yourselves tonight. And then we also saw 27Y, adjusting Senate and Cabinet member responsibilities, and we had a thorough discussion on that, and there's at least a couple amendments on there. And that bill got sent no bias. That was just the committee's general feelings about it. We didn't want to have one opinion one way or the other on it. So I encourage all of you to make your own opinions on that tonight. And that's all I have.
Moving on to Finance Committee with Finance Director Zastro.
Sorry I haven't gotten a finance update up to you guys. Yesterday in Finance Committee, we saw the Cycling Club line item transfer that was sent favorably. We saw the Cardinal Eats bill that was sent favorably. We also saw, or we did not see the bill that we added to the agenda tonight for the Student Alumni Leadership Council. If there are any questions about that bill during the course of it, I wrote the bill, so I'm pretty familiar with it. The basic situation is they have a new advisor, so they didn't know that they needed to fill out a line item transfer request form, and their event is next week, which is why it's being added to the agenda and having first read waived. I know that's not something that we like to do, but just given the time crunch that we're in, I can't blame the org for having a new advisor and not knowing that they had to do a line item transfer. So I'm okay with that. Then Dates Marathon line item transfer is also sent favorably. Yeah. Are there any questions for me? Also, we're still doing P&C review. Please let me know if you have any thoughts.
Moving on to PR Committee with Director Johnson.
Hi, everyone. A few quick updates. Tonight, we'll have confirming our at-large members to PR Committee, as well as for homecoming next week. We've been doing a lot of prep for the parade, which if you're not signed up, there's a tab on the MIS. Please, please, please sign up. We'll be staging about 1:30 on Sunday. It's kind of like in Old Town Ames, but we'd love to have everybody. Eddie's volunteered to let us use his truck, so it should be a pretty fun event. And then also, we'll be painting Victory Lane on Saturday. So Ann did a great design for us, so I'm really excited to see all that come together and then represent student government and all the homecoming festivities. Also, Christians organize weekly tabling events. So we have one slot open next week on Thursday to get that kicked off. It'll be open from 10 to 2. So if you have any time, please sign up for a spot. It'll count as an outreach credit. So get on that. Please sign up. We'd love to have everybody that's able. And then also the clothing order. We have a subcommittee that's been working on that. It's been approved by Trademark. So hopefully have order forms out very soon for t-shirts, polos, and then some crew necks. And then one last note, we had the multicultural town hall a couple weeks ago, had very positive feedback, and they're already starting to plan a second one for later this semester. So thanks to everybody that attended that. And if you weren't able to come, hope you can come to the next one.
Diversity, inclusion. Do you have a question? Speaker Weathers has a question for Director Johnson.
Less of a question, more just a helping comment. If anyone wanted to be involved in the homecoming parade from Senate, I think that more than counts as an outreach credit. So please sign up for that if you're looking to meet our new outreach credit requirement.
All right. Director Flores.
Hi. Okay, so Couple updates from me. I had a lot of meetings this week, made some new connections, so that's always nice. It'll help us with our projects in the committee. Tom just gave a wonderful program, so yay for Tom. So moving forward for some projects, we have one right now that we're working on, which will be kind of like a segment. We're not sure exactly what to call it yet, but it'll be a program to help adopted and fostered students on campus reconnect with their culture, which is very exciting. And another one that's a possible diversity and inclusion training for sports, different athletes on campus. We had some interest in that, so we'll see what we can do there. And then lastly, we have the director and vice director for the Center of LGBTQ+ coming to our meeting on Thursday to talk with us. So that's going to be fun.
Student initiatives with Senator Debate.
Yeah, all of our projects are moving ahead full steam. Our individual subcommittees are making progress. In other news, we've also been talking to PR to get the word out about our upcoming events. Working with Sophie to get the event odds in because we're required to do that per ISU policy. We're also meeting up with facilities planning and management tomorrow to talk about a GIS system. So that way, instead of writing down a description, we can use an app on our phones to get down coordinates and then attach pictures. So that way, they know exactly what we're talking about, and there is no guessing involved. Other than that, we've also been working with FP&M as well as utilities and the Department of Residence, and we have, I heard back about improvements that they have worked on from the issues we brought up during the last walk last semester. So that's really cool to see student governments, the things we've noticed out in the field being acted on and having a positive impact on campus. And we'll be looking ahead to work with them even more and make sure that tradition continues. Other than that, if you have any other project ideas, if you'd like to see SI take on any projects, we'd be more than happy to hear from you. But that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Civic engagement with Senator Paulson.
Hi, this is just a reminder that there's a candidate forum for the school board election next Tuesday from 7 to 8:30. 6 of the 7 candidates will be in attendance, and there's also a form on our civic engagement Instagram that you can put questions that we can ask the candidates. But yeah, that's all.
Comments from the student government advisor with Sophia.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Just a few things to let you know about. Currently, if you have not met with me and you would like to, that is still available. I've been having a really great time talking to everyone. I hope it's been beneficial to all of you. If you need me to resend the email, please let me know. Beyond that, alternative break site leader applications are out, and the workshop leadership series, which happens on Tuesdays, are still happening. Also on Saturday, November 13th, from 9 to 3:30 is the We Lead conference. So if anyone wants any information about that, I'll send an email. So that's all. Thank you.
Comments from the judicial branch. Is Andrew here today? Okay. Moving on to comments from the executive branch with President Campbell.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I've got a few quick updates tonight, beginning with an Office of Admissions orientation meeting, and that was Vice President Decker was in attendance. So if you have additional questions about some of the content covered there, please feel free to reach out to her. She'll be serving on this committee for the duration of the school year as they look forward to orientation for next year, as well as planning Destination Iowa State. So they had a goal-setting meeting, and I'll include those in the executive update here. Secondly, earlier this week on Monday, I had a meeting come up with Police Chief Newton. I went over to the Armory where the Iowa State Police Department office is, and we spoke for quite a while about some of the things going on campus, primarily about mental health, that a couple meetings are coming out of that meeting with Police Chief Newton. In addition, we discussed our potential engagement and understanding solutions to 801 Day and how in future years we want to continue to keep the Ames community safe. And so that's going to be a point of discussion at our upcoming joint city council meeting. To put that on your radars, as Mayor Hala of the city of Ames cohabitate the city of Ames as students and residents that live here year-round. In addition, we talked a little bit about trigger warnings as a conversation as a follow-up from the police advisory board meeting earlier on. And again, these are topics that are going to be continual conversations in the coming weeks. To give you an update, we talked recently about a liaison to Faculty Senate, and that is a role that I serve in. Just yesterday on Tuesday, Faculty Senate met, and to provide an update, I wanted to touch number one. The program that they gave was from Tara Jordan. She's the Associate Provost for Faculty Development, and in order to keep Iowa State competitive for faculty looking at working here at Iowa State, they want to provide continual mentorship and opportunities to mentor for employees, so especially for those on the tenure track, and that was a pretty interesting presentation. In terms of new business, they discussed a Bachelor of Science in Healthcare Management, Masters of Community Development, Masters of Entrepreneurship, and a Certificate in Science Communication, which that one, because of conflicting information with the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences communication degree, is going to go back to the committee for review. So I'll keep you updated on that. And finally, a lot of the conversation was regarding the U.S. diversity requirements. Back a while ago, they had approved for the new requirements to meet 3 out of the 4 objectives due to a special meeting by the executive board over the summer. That was reduced to 2 out of the 4, and so they're kind of discussing that. In addition, a couple more updates. Right now, Vice President Decker and myself, along with Director of Health and Wellness, Mary Lawson, we're working with Erin Baldwin and her team on how we can support as student government students on campus with the COVID-19 pandemic. A couple things that are in consideration are at-home testing kits, mobile flu and vaccination clinics, and mental health support, specifically looking at peer-to-peer support, us helping our peers, as well as destigmatizing seeking support for students on campus. And finally, assistance with flu shot communication. 2 final updates. Number one, tomorrow a public announcement will be made by administration and specifically Dr. Winterstein. They'll be announcing a new interim director for Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion after Margot Foreman left for her new role, which we're very excited for her at, I believe it's Clark University. And then my final update, which we'll share communication as soon as that comes out. It'll be in your inbox tomorrow. And a final update is with our Director of Marketing, Bryce Garman. I want to plug serving as an election official for the upcoming Story County official. So if you have information, I'll include it in the update, but talk to Bryce if you have interest in that from a civic engagement standpoint. So thank you. Any questions from anyone tonight?
All right, perfect. We'll go ahead and move on to general orders, starting with 2021-2-032F, Student Alumni Leadership Council line item transfer with Senator Rulli.
Great. Just want to check, is the representative for Salk here? Yeah. Oh, great. Do you have, nice, just got in. All right. Do you want to go over to the podium and just answer some questions for this bill? Before we do that, technically it's on first read, so I'm going to move to waive second read on this line item transfer.
Been a motion to waive first read on this transfer. Is there a second? All right. Is there any objection? Okay. We'll waive first read on this. We're now on the main motion.
Great. Would you like to kind of explain what's going on with this line item transfer for everybody, just so we can catch everybody up to speed?
So the Big Ten rental transfer to the first aid is we just got a new faculty advisor this year, so we had to fund for her first aid training. And then the excitement in the street staging to the Yell Like Hell stage. In years past, we've always done a 40 by 32 sized Yell Like Hell stage. But since Yell Like Hell didn't happen last year, we have about teams with 50 more people than we've had in previous years, with our biggest team being 130. So it just physically was not safe / feasible to have a stage of 30 by 42, so we bumped it up to a 40. We're hoping to bump it up to a 40 by 48. So that's kind of where that is. And then the DJ rental just went up $50 because of COVID and him upping up his prices, as well as with the pop-up events promotion just cost him more because of COVID. And then the Penske truck rental, we got one less gator this year to accommodate for the Penske truck rental because it costs more because of COVID. And then that's it. So, yeah.
Great. This is a line item transfer with no new money. We're just moving money around. I will yield, but vote yes.
Senator Weathers.
Yeah, I just want to ask Finance Committee if they had a chance to adequately look over. I have faith in Mason's judgment, but I think it's bad practice in general to leave the entirety of writing of a bill and viewing over of the bill up to one person. So has Finance Committee given it its approval? I guess I'll leave the floor.
Is there a senator
open, and
from
I'll ask
Finance
for
Committee that would like to
Committee
speak on this?
it.
Senator Rulli?
I can speak on this a bit. Mason, if I'm correct, SALC is partnered, right? Great. So I was able to look over this a little bit earlier today. Everything is on here is good. The stuff on here is typically not PNC eligible, but since they are partnered, we are able to fund stuff like this. If they're not doing stuff for whatever reason, we can allow them to move it. The only reason we're moving this faster is because the event is literally next week, and so if we can't do stuff, we can't fund stuff retroactively. But this bill in its whole looks good to go.
Is there any more discussion on the bill? Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Or any closing comments, Senator Rulli? We'll go ahead and go into a voting period. Since this is a finance bill, we will be doing a roll call vote. Please say yes, no, or abstain once I say your name. Edvate. Yes. Adagarla. Yes. Ulrich. Yes. Brett. Yes. Carter. Yes. Claiborne. Yes. Crabb. Yes. DeVore. Yes. Finaldi. Yes. Hayes. Yes. Larson. Yes. Lent. Yes. Mahoney.
Yes.
Rios.
Yes.
McCready.
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Rulli.
Yes.
Seth.
Yes.
Simmons.
Yes.
Skaggs.
Yes.
Stout. Thornton.
Yes.
Wagmeister.
Yes.
Weathers. Yang.
Yeah.
And Zuber. Of a vote of 25 to 0 to 1, the bill passes. All right, moving on to 2021-2-024F, funding Cardinal Eats with Senator Wagmeister.
Yeah, great. Yeah, go ahead and go up to the podium. Cardinal Eats requesting money for fall printing.
Well, hi, my name is Meg Grice. I'm the current president and editor-in-chief of Cardinal Eats, and my request is mainly just for my magazine, Cardinal Eats, to cover printing costs for the semester. So we print a magazine every semester, and due to the extensive cost of printing that magazine, we're only able to get so much funding from fundraising and dues and things like that. So this bill is mainly to cover all of those costs to print 250 issues of our magazine. It's about 50 pages, and our club mainly just allows students from across the university with an interest in food media to participate in a club where we write articles, produce photo content, write recipes, things like that, just kind of a general fun and journalistic-based club. So yeah, that's my organization.
Senator Rulli.
I move to add the Finance Committee amendments.
It's been a motion and a second to add the Finance Committee amendments. Any objection? Go into a discussion period on those amendments. Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Unanimous consent has been called for. Any objection to adding those amendments unanimously? All right, the amendment's been added. Back on the main motion.
Yeah, this is, we allow through our PNC printing for up to $3,000 for printing costs, so this is classic PNC, and it's good to go.
Senator Seth.
I just had a question, sorry, about where the magazines are circulated. You said you wanted to print 250 copies, and I was just wondering what's the distribution plan? Do you know if people like pick up the magazines, purchase them? I'm not really sure how. I've never seen a Cardinal Eats magazine before.
It's
so.
okay. We're a fairly new publication, so we actually weren't established on Iowa State's campus until 2016. So it's easy that you haven't seen one before. Also, in the previous semesters due to COVID, I think for the past 3 or 4, we weren't able to print anything. So that's probably why you also haven't seen anything on campus. But mainly circulation is done on Iowa State's campus, usually done in buildings in spaces where the Iowa State Daily has previously had spaces for the publication and other materials that the campus produces and things like that. So I would probably physically distribute a lot of them myself, as well as using my committee members to do so as well. But we're going through Iowa State University printing services also as well to keep costs low and to keep our product within the university. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course.
I also had just a short follow-up
Yes, of
question.
course.
I'm assuming, so this publication is free to students, right? You
Yes.
can just pick up a magazine
Yep.
and
Similar
and read
to
it?
Trend Magazine or SIRS, I think if they're still in operation, or Ethos as well.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course.
It sounds like a really great magazine. I've stolen recipes from Cardinal Eats before, and they were pretty yummy. So
Good to hear.
Senator Advait?
Hey, just real quick, do you have any idea what the circulation and/or outreach rate of the magazine might be?
Unfortunately, no, just due to the fact that our publication is fairly young. I don't have those numbers, but I know that people that haven't heard of the magazine before are always eager to hear about it, and it's definitely something that I'd love to see grow here at Iowa State. Unfortunately, this is my last semester, so this is my final time with the publication, but again, it'd definitely be something to spread to other people, that it is an opportunity for students that want something in design or writing, just anything in food media. They can have that opportunity. So yes, we're always looking for new members. So.
And just tangentially going off of that, would you happen to know how many copies is this being used to print?
250.
All right, thank you.
Yes, of course.
Senator Rulli?
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm with you, since there were questions about the circulation, our PNC says that the publication must be available at 5 or more locations on campus. Can you assure that that's going to happen?
Yes.
Great. I yield.
Senator Thornton?
Eventually. Okay. How much is your Cardinal Eats organization going to be contributing towards the publication?
As much as our account will allow. I think our current balance is somewhere in about $1,000, and then we also collect dues from each member each semester, around 10 and then 20 annually as per the student government guidelines. And then we also have advertisements. Those kind of fluctuate each semester as we get them. Advertisements are placed in the magazine. We get money from local businesses to place ads for their businesses. So those tend to fluctuate each semester depending on what businesses we can get. But yeah, and then we can also do fundraising like profit shares through certain businesses around the Ames area. But yeah, those are our main sources of funding.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes, of course.
Any more discussion? There's been a call to question in a second. Any objection to voting now? Any closing comments?
Yeah, just to reiterate, as Mason, Finance Director Zastro said, sent favorably by Finance yesterday. That's all.
All right, we'll go ahead and go into a voting period. Please vote yes nor abstain. This will be a roll call vote because it is finance bill. Advait. Yes. Atagarla. Yes. Ulrich. Yes. Brecht. Yes. Carter. Yes. Claiborne. Yes. Crabb. Yes. DeVore. Yes. Pinaldi. Yes. Goff. Hayes. Yes. Larson. Yes. Lent. Yes. Mahoney.
Yes.
Rios. Yes. McCready.
Yes.
Paulson. Yes. Rulli.
Yes.
Seth. Yes. Simmons. Yes. Skaggs. Yes. Stout. Yes. Thornton. Yes. Wagmeister. Yes. Weathers. Yes. Yang.
Yeah.
Zuber.
Yes.
Of a vote of 26 to 0 to 0, the bill passes.
Thank you.
Moving on to 2021-2-025F, funding cycling club with Senator Claiborne.
If the Camden, you want to walk up? Wow, that's really loud. This is obviously, as you can see, this is just registration fees for 3 of their members. And for PNC, we fund half of it. So yeah.
I'm the treasurer and team manager for Cycling Club, and we're requesting about 50% of our race and entry fees to go compete at Jingle Cross this weekend in Iowa City. It's an international race. This is a big chance for our club to go out and show what we're made of on a really, really big scale with a lot of other really great competitors, as well as get some of our younger members some really good exposure to cycling culture, get them excited to race more, and hopefully get them up the scale.
Is there any discussion? Senator Claiborne.
I move to amend the Finance Committee amendments.
Been a motion and a second to amend the Finance Committee amendments. Is there any objection? All right, we'll go ahead and go into a discussion period on those amendments. Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Unanimous consent has been called for. Any objection to adding those amendments unanimously? All right, the amendment's been added back on the main motion. Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Closing comments, Senator Claiborne? No closing comments. We'll go ahead and go into a voting period. Once again, this will be a roll call vote because it is a finance bill. Please vote yes, nor abstain. Advate. Yes. Adegarla. Yes. Ulrich. Yes. Brecht. Yes. Carter. Yes. Claiborne. Yes. Crabb. Yes. DeVore. Yes. Finaldi. Yes. Hayes. Yes. Larson. Yes. Lent. Yes. Mahoney.
Yes.
Rios. Yes. McCready.
Yes.
Paulson. Yes. Ruley.
Yes.
Seth. Yes. Simmons. Yes. Skaggs. Yes. Stout. Yes. Thornton. Yes. Wagmeister. Yes. Weathers. Yes. Yang.
Yes.
Zuber. Yes. Of a vote of 26 to 0 to 0, the bill passes.
Thank you.
Moving on to 2021-2-026F Dance Marathon Light Item Transfer Part 2 with Senator Ruley.
Yeah, we'll rep for Dance Marathon. Go up to the podium.
Hey, my name is David Wall, and I'm the executive director for Dance Marathon. But we're just doing a few line item transfers of some parts that we didn't use or we're just kind of cutting so that we can pay for our big event better. Really, this comes down to we didn't know our exact event location until beginning of this fall, and obviously that was after our initial budget meeting. So this is really just to accommodate for those changes.
Yeah, also what I got from Grace Vangman, the treasurer of Dance Marathon, is that they are adding more funding into the Hanson Ag building because they had just recently gotten the quote and it needed more funding. So they're moving some items off of their spring and fall recruitment. That's the dunk tank, inflatables, and tent rental that they'll no longer be getting funding from us for. And then they're also moving the rest of the conference registration that went online to add another essentially meeting for their spring and fall recruitment. So, I yield.
Senator Weathers.
Senator Ruley, do you know when the money was originally allocated, was the club expecting to have a cheaper location than it ended up having? Or why is this unexpected cost occurred, I guess?
This was, I guess it's kind of going back. I think they originally had held it in the Memorial Union, and now they moved it, funding to the Hanson Egg building in our last line item transfer. They didn't get the quote for the Hanson Egg Center until after we had already passed that bill. So they just essentially need more money for it. So, building rentals do go on a case-by-case basis, so take that as you will, but I would encourage you to vote yes.
Okay, so for the representative from the club, is it true that the price just ended up being higher than was expected?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Senator Lent.
I think this is their first time using Hanson Ag. You guys have been at the Memorial Union for the past however many years, right?
23 years at the Memorial Union. Last year, we were at LEAD due to COVID, just bigger space.
Gotcha.
So yeah, this is our first year at Hanson Ag.
Yeah. So just misunderstanding, not knowing.
Any more discussion? Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? We'll go ahead and go into closing comments with Senator Rulli. No closing comments. We'll go ahead and go into a roll call vote. Please vote yes, nor abstain. Edvate. Hadagarla. Ulrich. Brecht. Carter. Claiborne. Crab. DeVore. Finaldi. Hayes. Larson. Lent. Mahoney. Rios. McCready. Paulson. Rulli. Seth. Simmons. Skaggs. Stout. Thornton. Wagmeister. Weathers. Yang. Zuber. Of a vote of 26 to 0, the bill passes. Moving on to internal matters, special orders 2021-2-020 SD, confirming the nomination of a residence hall senator with Speaker Weathers.
All right, Kush, if you'd like to approach the podium and go ahead and speak to Senate as to your qualifications, why you want to be involved with student government, the nomination process from IRHA, anything that you think is pertinent.
Hi, my name is Kushi Patel. I go by Kush. I'm a freshman here and a pre-business major. Yeah, sorry. Could you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, it'll just be helpful to Senate if you list like your qualifications, why you wanted to be involved in Senate, things like that.
I want to be involved because I think it's a great way to connect with people and to help out other people that also live in a residence hall like me. I've already attended one of the meetings, so I think that's something I should pull out.
Senator Edvate.
Could you perhaps go over some ideas, some initiatives you might have, and just whatever you said in rules yesterday should suffice, and maybe any committees you might be interested in?
All right, so I think some great issues that we could bring up with the residence halls is like the vending machines. Some of them don't tend to work, especially since I'm from Elmwood Oak. Our residence hall was closed last year, so we do have like some things that aren't there that other residence halls tend to have. So I think that's something that could be brought up. And then with the committees, I was really interested in Finance Committee and the Public Relations Committee.
I had the pleasure of meeting Kushi at the Rules Committee meeting yesterday and talking to her after the meeting. I can tell you she seems really engaged and thrilled about this role. And she's already like reached out and asked me and Eddie like a bunch of questions just to make sure she can serve in the best possible way in this position. So I think Kushi's going to be a great candidate for this role. I yield.
Senator Seth.
This is more so a question for some of the other IRHA senators, just about process and how that works. So, does IRHA nominate a senator and then they vote in favor of a senator? So this is directed to you, I guess, Senator Mahoney, or Senator Aldrichs as well. Just how does that? Can you inform the body on how that works?
So I can speak on that real quickly. The way our senators have been nominated so far, they basically sat down and interviewed with the president and vice president of IRHA. They did attend an IRHA meeting. People got to talk to them, meet with them. They talked with us as well, kind of got everybody's feedback. This position, actually, there were two different candidates that we were kind of going back and forth between. So they kind of talked to IRHA body as a whole before the nomination was made. There wasn't a formal vote on who to be nominated, but it did see a lot of ayes, and a lot of people got the chance to actually talk with the candidate.
Okay, great. Yeah. Having, I guess, since you've gone through the process of rules and IRHA, I feel like you're probably pretty qualified. So I will yield my time. Thank you.
Senator Mahoney.
Just because I know it's slightly impressive, can you go over some of your other leadership stuff you're doing, like freshman council?
So right now, as a freshman, I'm currently in first year council. I'm also in the finance club, and I'm looking to get into Wall Street here as well.
Senator Zuber, did you? You're not right. Okay. Senator Larson, not anymore. Senator Crabb.
Awesome. I met Kush when we were doing tabling for Outreach Week. I think she's going to be a wonderful candidate, and I hope you all vote yes.
Second.
Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? We'll go ahead and go into closing comments. Speaker Weathers, no closing comments. We'll go ahead and go into a voting period. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any objection to confirming the nominee for Residence Hall Senator unanimously? All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll have the Chief Justice come up and swear you in, so you can go ahead and stay at the podium. Stay at the podium, and we'll just have him swear you in right now.
Oh, perfect.
Please repeat after me.
All right.
I solemnly swear or affirm
I solemnly swear or affirm
to execute the duties of my position
to execute the duties of my position
as prescribed in the Constitution
as prescribed in the Constitution
and laws of the government
and laws of the government
for the benefit of all students.
for the benefit of all students.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yay.
Speaker Weathers.
I move to add Senator Patel to the roll.
And a motion to add. Can you pronounce your last name? Okay, perfect. Patel, sorry. Didn't have that written down before. Thanks so much. Is there any objection? All right, she's been added to the roll. We'll go ahead and move on to 2021-2-021 SC, seating at-large members of the Public Relations Committee with Speaker Weathers.
Okay, if everyone who was nominated to be on the committee on Public Relations would like to approach the front of the room, stand behind the podium. All of these people were nominated by the Public Relations Committee, and I'll let them all speak to their own merits. But if each of you would like to say why you want to be involved in PR Committee one by one, your qualifications, things like that.
Hello, my name is Madeline Becker. I'm a freshman here at Iowa State, majoring in economics. I'm very interested in the Public Relations Committee because I think the student government and its effectiveness is very dependent on how the student body views our organization. Knowing how much good work you guys do and how important it is to all the clubs and students on campus, I'm very interested in creating a positive public image. I feel that I am qualified because this past summer I worked as a secretary for a law firm, so I have a lot of experience working with people, answering phones, doing social media, stuff like that. I also worked for a real estate firm as a personal assistant. I made all of the mailing publications as well as did Instagram and Facebook correspondence with potential customers.
We'll just go through them one by one, so you can just each say something if that's okay, and then move off to the right.
Well, hi, everybody. My name is Hannah Overman. I am a first-year transfer student from DMAC. I came here for graphic design. I transferred from a marketing associate's degree and also digital marketing. I worked for a year at a dental office doing newsletter and social media management, as well as just marketing designs and advertising. And then I worked for another year at a real estate firm as a salesperson, and then as well as their social media manager, as well as their advertising manager as well. So that's just a couple of my qualifications. One of the reasons I want to join student government is and the PR committee here is a way to get involved, like fully involved. I was homeschooled my entire life, so I've always wanted to be in student government. I've always just wanted to get fully in there, fully involved, and I feel like student government is just a wonderful way to do that, as well as implementing some of the skills I have, and then just learning so much from other people on the PR committee.
Hi everyone, my name is Jamie Haas and I'm a junior studying Communication Studies and Public Relations. I wanted to join the PR committee because I wanted to gain and develop new skills related to public relations, to be more involved on campus and in student government, and to learn more about student government as well, and to meet more people and connect with more people in student government. For the past 2 years, I have been a cyclone aide, so I was able to work with new students, including freshmen and transfer students. And then for my sorority, I am the vice president of chapter wellness. So I've worked a lot with risk prevention, conflict management, and organizing events for my sorority through that.
Hi everybody, my name is Quinn Slater. I am a freshman here majoring in agriculture and life sciences education, communications option, and agriculture and society. And some of the things that I'm really excited to work for with Public Relations Committee is just getting involved within student government, getting to work with everyone, especially Senior Director of Communications, Lydia Johnson, and just really getting my name out there and getting Iowa State's name out there, and just making sure that everything is fully involved and everybody is fully engaged in everything that we're working with. Some prior qualifications that I have is just things such as within my high school, I was involved with our student government there. And then this year, I'm also a member of IRHA as a representative from Maple Hall.
I think we have one more nomination to read about.
Yes, we had two members that weren't able to join us tonight, but they submitted a short statement. I'll just read on their behalf. First, my name is Jennifer Holliday, and I'm currently a freshman double majoring in agricultural communications and international agriculture. I have experience working in groups and officer teams, creating presentations and social media posts to share to diverse audiences, and the passion to give everyone the opportunity to become knowledgeable about and get involved at Iowa State. I would like to serve on the Public Relations Committee to offer and improve upon my current skill set and bring new ideas to the table. And the second one, my name is Hannah Peterson. I am a sophomore double majoring in public relations and event management. I want to serve on the Public Relations Committee to grow my experience as a PR major, but also to grow as an individual and become more involved on campus. As a sophomore and being able to finally have a more normal year, I would like to be involved as much as I can and support the Iowa State community.
Are there any questions from any of the senators for the nominees? Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? We'll go ahead and go into closing comments. No closing comments. Voting period now for the nominations. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to confirming all the nominees for PR committee unanimously? Congratulations. You guys can take a seat, or do you guys want to do pictures out in the hallway? Right. Moving on to 2021-2-027Y, adjusting Senate and Cabinet members' responsibilities with Senator Hayes.
Hey, everybody. Hopefully you have all looked over this amendment. Let me explain what I was going for when writing this bill, which is largely influenced by Senator Advait and Chief of Staff Ludwig. Basically, as the requirements stand for senators and cabinet members, the credit system favors and rewards outreach credits over the rest of our responsibilities. What we do as a whole body is incredibly diverse in nature, whether it be those in diversity, equity, and inclusion, putting on trainings in town halls, sustainability committee hosting composting events and cleaning Lake Laverne, or civic engagement, hosting get-to-know-your-candidate events and registering voters. We as student government do many external activities that are beneficial to campus and the student body at large that aren't under the scope of outreach. I find that these activities should be rewarded as well and encouraged via the credit system we are implementing. In order to accomplish the goal of rewarding and encouraging participation in the wide variety of important student government activities, I propose this amendment stripping the outreach title from the credit system. Additionally, I find that this activity still encourages and rewards outreach, but just not in as strict of a definition. With the activities currently having to be focused on outreach, many activities that student government puts on that accomplish the goal of outreach will not be rewarded. Our committees range in their scopes of work, but SI, through events like the Campus Safety Walk, accomplishes the goal of reaching new students and spreading student government's name and accomplishments. Civic engagement, as I've mentioned, participates in events like registering voters, which accomplishes the goal of reaching new students and spreading student government's name and accomplishments. DE&I, as I've mentioned, participates in events like the Multicultural Town Hall, which accomplishes the goal of reaching new students and spreading student government's name and accomplishments. The same goes for Sustainability Committee and is especially true of PR, although even PR puts on events not directly related to outreach, but still definitely accomplishes the mission of outreaching to the student body. I think the only committees that are internally focused are Rules and Finance Committee, But through this credit system that I am suggesting, they will still be encouraged to participate in events that they normally would not participate in and are likely to accomplish the goal of outreach as well. The credit system I would like to be implemented is incredibly flexible. It is so in two distinct ways. Firstly, this amendment gives us the flexibility to be rewarded for the wide variety of activities that student government engages with the student body for. Secondly, it acknowledges the flexible nature of the activities that student government puts on as either being directly or indirectly accomplishing the goal of outreach. We should tell others about ourselves, but another key aspect of outreach is allowing our actions to speak for us too. I hope everyone sees how this improves our credit system and encourages and rewards the totality of student government's external affairs. I encourage a thorough discussion, and please ask questions if you have them. Thank you.
Senator Rios.
Hello, I like this idea a lot. I have one question. So it says that the head of each run will be responsible for deciding if it counts as a credit or not. How will you make sure that it stays consistent within the different governments each year? Because like, what if one year an activities count, but then the next year the same activities not?
I mean, that's why it is up to the discretion of the head of whatever committee or branch that it is that they're the head of. So ultimately, it is up to their discretion. Like, I don't think that it has to be standardized between like similar events every year, but I think that people will be able to acknowledge whether or not a certain event counts as a credit that is serving the student body in some sort of way that we want to accredit.
Speaker Weathers.
Move to adopt the Rules Committee amendments.
And a motion to adopt the Rules Committee amendments and seconded. Any objection? We'll go into a discussion period.
Okay, so I'll go through these one by one, but I'll try to be brief for everyone's sanity. I'm removing Chief of Staff Ludwig. He was not consulted as a co-sponsor, so that's just tidying that up. The whereas clauses, only the last one is changing. It's misleading. But essentially what it does is just updates the name to a credit system. It's very minor, whereas clauses don't have any true effect anyway on the bylaws. It is striking bylaw 7.8.9 being added because that's already in there. That's a redundant clause. And then the meat of the change is down here where the next chapter 15 changes. It's changing the name from activity to credit program because I believe Senator Advey brought this amendment and he had spoken with a few other people about it. He wanted the credits to be attainable only if the events at which the credits were attained were student facing or had some sort of student involvement in some sense. And so you still get that outreach aspect to it. At least that was the theory behind it. Another change in here, it just adds the ability for the speaker, or whoever speaker will be after me, to enforce this by means of nonfeasance. Nonfeasance is just a failure to complete your duty. Yeah, I think that's all I need to outline for now.
Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now on the amendment? Right, we'll be voting on the amendment now. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to adding those amendments unanimously? Right, the amendment's been added back to the main motion. Senator Rios.
I have another question. So would it be possible to have, because it says here that you're going to track the credits and then they're going to be filed and available upon request, would it be possible to just have them in the drive instead of having them available upon request?
Yeah, so to my understanding, and I'll yield my time to Speaker Weathers in a sec, or well, you should ask Speaker Weathers about it in a second, but this is just to keep it consistent because I guess this is how the attendance is currently kept as well as like voting records and stuff like that. So I think just to have it consistent with the rest of our records, that was the decision being made here.
Do I just ask you the same question that I just did?
Yeah, it's basically as Senator Hayes said. All of our other documents that we keep track of for things like these, nonfeasances, absences, that's kept in a document. But the reason it's not included on the drive is basically for security reasons. The drive is accessible to everybody, and different people have different editing privileges that you wouldn't necessarily want on a document like this. So basically, I would have editing privileges over my document, and whoever the president designated to keep track of this on their end would have editing privileges over that. And of course, it's publicly available, so it's as good as public. It's just so it's not edited without good reason.
Senator Mahoney?
I just wanted to throw my support behind this. I think it's a good idea to incentivize those more student-facing events. I actually talked with Ave about this at length, and Senator Hayes as well. And so some of the student-facing language was partially some of my concerns that I brought up. The general idea is I really am in favor of being able to incentivize people to go to those student-facing events so that people do show up to, for example, the safety walk, as Senator Hayes mentioned.
Senator Claiborne?
Seeing that these are outreach credits, I would like to know if the director of outreach was asked about this, or what PR has to think about it.
Yeah, so taking a look at this, I think it's great to encourage student government members to get more involved in events. One of my concerns, though, is I'm just nervous that this will be an excuse to not participate in actual outreach events like tabling, because people will be like, oh, I already set up, tore down, I already participated in this event. That's just one of my fears. I don't know if that's valid, though, but I've already have difficulty getting people signing up for tabling, and I'm just afraid this will put more difficulty on me.
Thank you. I yield.
Senator Seth?
Firstly, would it be taken as a friendly to remove 15.1.2, because it's just like a blank number and there's nothing connected to it? I don't know if that's supposed to be there or not, but if it's not supposed to be there, would that be a friendly to remove that? Yes.
Senator Veit, is that a mistake on your end?
It was here at the beginning of the meeting. I can copy in the language again, if that's okay with Senate. I don't know why it has disappeared.
Yeah, if you could find it in the history, that'd be awesome.
It is in the history. It seems to have been. I'll put it back in.
Okay. Well,
we'll wait on that one if that's okay.
Yeah, that's
what
fine.
it says.
Yeah, that's fine. I have a question though. So I share some of the Director of Outreach's concerns about this. I think it's a good idea, but I'm also worried about whether or not we'll be able to fill other outreach roles with this. But one of the things that I wanted to ask about was this concept of student-facing manner. I find that wording kind of confusing, and I'm not really sure what exactly counts as student-facing manner. So I guess to either, I'm not sure who proposed these amendments, to either Senator Veit, did you write this amendment? You did? Okay, so then I'll direct that question towards you. What do you mean by student-facing manner?
So this bill was born out of a lot of senator feedback I got, and one of the concerns I got was that the previous language wasn't strict enough in some aspects, and that future speakers or future heads of the executive branch could define what an outreach credit really, really loosely. So this was put in there to make sure that if you want an outreach credit, it must be something that is student-facing in an external manner. So that way, if you're just doing event setup, you don't get a credit. I hope that also addresses the concern that the Director of Outreach had. So it has to be something that specifically involves you interacting with students. It can't just be, oh, I helped set this up, or, oh, I worked on something with other student government members. No, students must be involved because that is the goal of this program. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does to some degree. So then I guess the follow-up question that I have to that is, so when you say student-facing, like events in a student-facing manner, does this also then include events like that Student Initiatives Committee would put on? So like Safety Walk would count for that, and like, for example, like hopefully, like the Coffee and Doggos like event, that would count for an outreach credit because it's student-facing then?
That would be the goal, ideally, because events like that would see us talking to at least a safety walk, 40 to 50 students. The second event, at least 100 students, we're hoping. And it's us putting our name out, handing out resources for student government, and also putting student government's face in front of the students. And I think Senator Hayes would also like to add to that if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead, Senator Hayes.
Yeah, so I guess just one of so student facing and the way that I understand it. So, like we have our sort of internal business that basically just dictates the way that we operate. And I think that anything that we do that interacts with the student body or campus life outside of ourselves, so anything that we're doing to like benefit the student body outside of like basically this room or the way that we operate, I think would be student facing. That's the way I understand it. That's the way I intend for it to be heard.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Thank you for clarifying. I will yield.
Senator Thornton?
I am very much for this bill because as I heard, I wasn't here for the outreach one because I was on a school field trip, which is why I'm for this one, because it makes it easier for people to make those outreach credits. And I heard that the argument was that no one was going to be against that bill because who would be against outreach credits? We should be trying to make outreach credits as easy as possible to obtain. As Senator Hayes has said, we will still be spreading the name of student government. We will still be spreading the message that we want to obtain or spread during those credit hours. So I don't see a problem with making them as easy as possible to spread. People will still be signing up for tabling if they wish or if they're able to sign up for tabling. I will still be signing up for tabling. I believe I've already met my hours and I'll still be doing them if I can. But we will still have leadership through volunteering. This is still, as senators, a volunteer position, and I don't think that we should be punished for not being able to obtain our outreach credits simply because we're being strict with our definitions. So think about the people that are next to you and not just about what your certain schedule is like as a senator, but maybe about the fact that we've also recently had to pass a bill for senators of certain majors, allowing them for their scheduling purposes to be at certain locations on campus for the office hours. That's it, I yield.
Senator Crabb?
Hi. So during our time and rules, I felt a little weird about the student-facing wordage as well, and I was told to create maybe an amendment or something, but I think that it just kept going back to what we passed 2 weeks ago. I think especially looking at cabinet members, I would like to see our health and wellness director tabling instead of maybe setting up for an event where they wouldn't be able to express or talk about their positions. And then also the scheduling part that Senator Thornton talked about. This is also the outreach credit that we talked about 2 weeks ago. You can go talk to your sorority, you can talk to a class. It doesn't really have to be regarding a tabling schedule that Christian set up. And then this is also for people that, going back to 2 weeks ago, if there are people that I've seen in previous years where they have not signed up for a single thing, which is fine, but I would like to see them, if they're going to sign up for something, might as well be outreach and talking to students right away. So I yield.
Senator McCready?
Yeah, I'd just like to mimic my support for this this bill. You know, as a teacher in the School of Education, you know, especially my senior year here, I am gone like most of the day. And making this flexible is going to be really nice and really easy for me because I'm literally teaching at North Polk Middle School Wednesdays and Fridays during the day, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays I have class. So it's hard for me to just kind of do things at night when, outreach, it's kind of hard to do outreach at night when, no one can see you. But, making it as flexible as possible is a really good idea, because it's hard enough to get people to join student government and pay attention to us to begin with. And if we can making this flexible and say, hey, we want people out here, we want people to join us here at student government, we want to get your voices heard. I think we need to be flexible with our outreach credits and just be inviting and not have so strict of rules, because having stricter rules just scares people away. So,
Senator Wagmeister.
Yeah, I'll second most of that. That I like the fact that it's pretty versatile, and whoever is in charge of determining what an outreach credit. I think we can all have pretty good hope that someone's going to be lenient on what an outreach credit is, assuming it's student facing and meets the requirements. But I like that it's not so specific. My only hesitation is at this point, it gets to be a point of where, and my question is for whoever's in charge of keeping track of them. So Speaker Weathers, for legislative, do you have any concern that it becomes more of a chore on behalf of a senator and on whoever is in charge of keeping track of the document?
Sorry, let me think for a moment. I think the bill in its current language allows flexibility. I think allowing the speaker or their designee to keep track of these things doesn't make it so much of a chore. Of course, it is more duties for whoever holds the speaker role. But I guess it's up to Senate to decide whether or not it is, if this is such an important thing that they would burden the role of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't have a huge concern, but that's a concern that was on my mind, and I just felt it to bring it to the floor to raise discussion about that.
Sorry, one more thing. I think we had spoken outside of this, and one concern you addressed was whether or not it would be easy to keep track of this or make sure that people are actually doing the things that they're reporting that they're doing. If that was a concern, of course, I think that would probably be something like a misfeasance, lying about having done your duty. So there are enforcement means if someone should lie about having completed a credit or something like that.
Right, and I think my biggest concern is that it maybe turns the owner of the document or the editor of the document into more of like a policing type situation, because of course no one should lie about doing an outreach credit, and I don't expect that the person in charge of the document should have to be BCC'd on any email of like setting up an outreach event or something like that. And my hesitation is that it could potentially be a lot of time out of that person's day or semester or year, keeping track of outreach credits just in general. And I wouldn't encourage anyone to lie about doing an outreach credit, but it could potentially be easier than you would want it to be, because I wouldn't expect whoever's in charge of that to spend an immense amount of time keeping track of that document.
Senator Dvait.
I'd like to move the renumbering amendments reflected on screen.
It's been a motion to amend the amendments selected on the screen and seconded. Any objection? We'll go into a discussion period on those amendments. Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Go into a voting period on those amendments. Unanimous consent has been called for. Is there any objection to adding those amendments unanimously? Great, and it's been added. Back on the main motion once again.
I guess just to make sure everyone's voices are heard, Speaker Weathers, did you say this is going to add an overhead over and above the system that we currently have? Do you think it's generally going to stay the same compared to the previous language that was passed 2 weeks ago?
Okay, so what exactly are you asking me to compare with the current?
Do you think it's adding extra responsibilities that you think we could amend the language or take away? Or if it's just the same workload that we had from 2 weeks ago?
I would imagine it would be fairly comparable. I don't think you could really chalk up a meaningful difference to having to discern whether or not something is or is not a student-facing event. I think that would be the same burden of deciding whether or not something is or is not an outreach event. So.
Good to know. And because this bill also involves the executive branch, Chief of Staff Ludwig, is there something you'd like to touch on with this bill? Enforcement related or how it might affect you?
Hello, could you repeat the question?
Because this bill also affects the executive branch, is there something you'd like to touch on about how it affects you in terms of enforcement or just in general?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's going to be any more of a difficulty in keeping track of and managing this than under the guidelines passed 2 weeks ago. I like the expansion. I think it's flexible for, everyone involved. I think, we've got 100 to 150 different slots per semester from all of our student government members that are affected by this. So that's a lot of things to do. So I guess, yeah, I'm in favor. I think it's effective.
All right, thank you. I yield.
Senator Rios?
If possible, I would like to hear from other senators about this one thing. I don't know if it's a language barrier, but like the student-facing term, I know that it's like meant to be ambiguous and flexible for the purpose of the bill, but I don't know, it kind of seems like strange, like student-facing, like it could mean so many things. So I don't know, what is your interpretation from other senators? Thank you.
Who are we asking here? Can you say that one more time?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was asking the other senators' opinions who didn't write the bill.
Oh, got it. Sorry, Senator Thornton.
I imagine that student-facing would just mean that if it interacts with students, it doesn't necessarily mean that, so basically, just that you're interacting with students. So like tabling is student-facing because you're interacting with them like over the table or by the table. The student initiatives hosted walk for student, or the safety walk is student-facing because you're walking next to them or with them and you're identifying issues on campus. And then, what's another example? Like coffee and donuts. Oh yeah, the mental health tabling booth. Well, that's another tabling booth. But the free coffee and donuts that student initiatives will be doing with the therapy dog would be student-facing because we're going to be talking about student government, but also mental health resources with ISUPD and hopefully Teelan Health Center there. So anything that is like reaching out to students and really focusing on them is what I imagine is like how I define that myself anyways.
Senator Lipp?
How I understood it was like that, interacting with students. I was also really confused about it at first until it was explained that it's meant to be ambiguous. So I think that might be part of where the confusion is coming from. Not really, yeah.
Senator DeVore?
Yeah, so I guess some of my concerns with this bill stem from listening to the discussion. It seems that almost everyone has said they like the overall intent of this bill, and then they have a concern. So I guess I just have reservations in rushing to pass a bill that while we like the overall intent, there's a lot of things from top to bottom that seems to be of concern for various reasons to various different people. So that's the reason that I guess I'm not in favor of this bill at the moment. Like I said, I think the intent behind this bill is good. It just seems like there are still a lot of things that could be improved upon to make all of us more comfortable in passing this bill. I yield.
Senator Wagmeister?
Just for clarification, Senator Debate, the intent of my comment wasn't to target this bill specifically in comparison to the bill 2 weeks ago. My comment was more so just about outreach credits as a whole.
Senator Claiborne?
My thing is, like you guys, we talked about how the town hall can be considered an outreach credit, but I don't think for me personally, something that I have to do for my committee, reaching about one specific thing. Like when we're at the town hall, we're not talking about student government. We're talking about concerns that people have. And obviously we are there as student government, as students, but we're also there for students as students. We're not there as student government members. Obviously we have more knowledge than the normal students because we have more contacts, but we're not reaching out to people for student government specifically. We're reaching out for their problems. So that's just one example, and that's why I'm not in favor of this bill.
Madam President?
Yes.
I'd like to move the amendment reflected on screen in 15.4.1, switching out the language from student-facing to engaging or serving the student body in a manner interacting directly with members of the student body.
There's been a move to add the amendment reflected on the screen. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to add that amendment. Is there any objection? Go into a discussion period on that amendment. Senator Vate.
Yeah, I think student-facing might have led to a little confusion, as I've heard, and I think putting the requirement that it must be something that requires direct interaction with members of the student body helps us ensure that only things you're doing that get student government's name out there, that have students see student government playing an active role on campus and therefore raising our profile and achieving the goals laid out in the outreach report here. I think this reflects that language better. I yield.
Senator Thornton.
I just have a clarification question specifically about the homecoming parade then, and if this would cover that because of how much interaction students get with us via the homecoming parade.
I guess I'm not familiar exactly with the design of the homecoming parade. This may be a question for Bryce, but I believe that we'll be walking and maybe handing out flyers. I really don't know what it's going to look like, so I apologize.
No, that's okay. It just popped into my mind because earlier it had been like, oh, this is going to be an outreach credit-esque thing. But parades are not very interacty-ish, except for throwing and waving.
How about we direct this to the communications team because they're in charge of our homecoming parade float.
Yeah, thanks. So I guess our plan is we'll have the truck and we have some signage that PR committee voted on as magnets for the side of the truck. So it'll say student government, and then we'll have all the members, following along, walking, and then we'll be able to hand out candy and then have any discussions, beforehand or afterwards with anybody interested in our organization. So I guess, are there any other questions with that? That's kind of how we envisioned it.
So if that were the design of the homecoming opportunity, then yes, I think this would meet a credit.
Senator Hayes.
Yeah, so I would like to amend this amendment to include some language. I don't know if someone else wants to get ready to type as I speak aloud. I also texted it to Advate, so hopefully he can add it to the end. But yeah, so what it says is, so it would read, oh shucks, where's it at? So as it would read, it would say, in a manner facing directly with, okay, hold on, now I'm getting confused. In a manner, okay, hold on, sorry. I'll wait for Advate to be done typing and then I'll say it out loud. Yes, so what I added was, or benefiting members, or members of the student body external to those involved with student government. And I think this clarifies that this isn't just events that I think need to always directly interact with a bunch of other students, but if we are doing something with student governments, or with the benefit of with the intent of like bettering campus, or where we are like bettering campus or the student body, even if they aren't there directly to witness it right away. I think this is a way for us to be to receive credits in a way that we are benefiting students, even if they aren't there to witness it, which, as the bill as a whole stands, I believe still accomplishes the overall intent, seeing as the bill doesn't talk about this being an outreach credit anymore, as much as it talks about just being a credit system, which, as I have discussed, because it currently stands that, we have an outreach credit system. I want to change that to just a credit system where we can get credits for any events, but I think that largely we still are doing outreach, and I think that if we're benefiting students in the same way, I think that those credits should count towards receiving credit as well.
So could you just say quick, I move, and then the amendment?
I move.
Just to specify which one you're talking about?
Yes, I move to add members of the student body. Oh, no. Advait, can you highlight the...
It's the external part?
Okay,
is that
yes.
it then?
Okay, sorry about that. I move to add external to those involved with student government. Members of the student... Hold on. Sorry, something isn't making sense. Right? I'm not dumb. Okay. Interacting... Okay. Oh my goodness. I move to add and benefiting members of the student body external to those involved with student government.
Is there a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded to add that amendment to the amendment. Is there any objection? Now we're on the discussion period for Senator Hayes' amendment. Senator Weathers.
I believe I understand the intent that you're trying to get out with this, Senator Hayes. I think this might be getting too nitpicky and clogging up the bylaw language as a whole. I think typically when the bylaws refer to members of the student body, it is assumed that that means non-student government members. For example, when we talk about open forum in the bylaws, it's referring to non-student government members to come in and speak. I understand that you're trying to clarify. Unfortunately, I think this only muddles it up more. So I yield.
Vice Speaker Crabb.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and agree with Speaker Weathers on this. And to add on that, I think, I just don't like the language of this just because, and benefiting members of the student body, external, I think that's, once again, getting too nitpicky because if you're in a meeting, I guess, to do a student initiative that would be affecting students externally, I don't think that should be counted, unless I'm getting it wrong, but yeah.
Okay. So we're going to have to continue to discuss this and then vote on it. So unless someone wants to call the question, we'll go into a vote period and then we can go back on the original amendment. Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection? All right, we'll go ahead and vote. This is the amendment to the amendment. So this is Senator Hayes' amendment. Go into a voting period. We'll do a placard vote. So please vote. The first will be yes, then no, then abstain. So yes. Yeses. You can go ahead and put your placards up. All right, any noes? Okay, any abstentions? All right, of a vote of 0 to 26 to 1, the amendment fails. Now we're back on the original amendment proposed by Senator Advait. Is there any more discussion on that amendment, the original one? Senator Advait.
Right, so we're at the point where this simplifies the language. At this point, all that the entirety of the clause says is so long as engaging or serving the student body in a manner interacting directly with members of the student body. So that way, a committee meeting would not count for an outreach credit because, well, that's not directly interacting with students. And we don't want to give people credits for sitting in a committee meeting because you aren't directly interacting with students. So I hope this clears up questions that some senators have brought up, and I understand student-facing might have been a little confusing. I hope this clears that up beyond a shred of doubt and leaves the language very simple and plain to understand. I yield.
Is there any more discussion on the amendment? Senator Hayes.
Okay, so the only stipulation I have, which is why I wanted to clarify an additional clause, but that was muddling, I agree, is that I think that we don't have to directly interact with them. I think that if you're somehow benefiting them, even if they aren't directly there to witness it, I think that you should still be able to receive a credit, which is also why I think that not seeing, or you're not doing anything if you're just sitting in a meeting. I think that that's more of deliberation before you're actually benefiting students. I think that if we could somehow use words I think something just general, benefit students, or engage with the campus, something along those lines, just because, I don't know, I think that you should be able to receive credit even if there aren't students directly there to witness it, but you're doing an awesome project, such as, in years past, student government members alone have gone and cleaned Lake Laverne. And that seems like something that is massively improving the student body life and is improving our campus, but there may not have been students there to witness it or people outside of student government to appreciate it. But I think that would still be something I'd like to see us receive credit for.
Senator Paulson.
Just in kind of response to that is while I do think that that is super awesome student government to do, if they were just hosting that event to just let's clean up campus and not intentionally trying to direct or directly interact with students, I wouldn't consider that outreach. Outreach, I think, is you going in, you're talking to students. Students should be at an event in order for it to be an outreach credit.
Senator Litt.
I'm personally going to be voting no on this amendment because I feel like it's kind of redundant, and engaging the student body is already addressing what this amendment is trying to address. So yeah, I'll be voting no personally.
Senator Claiborne.
I just had a question for Senator Hayes. So with the wording you just said, would the projects that we're doing for diversity and inclusion, since we're not directly with students, but we're going to benefit them, would those also count as outreach credits?
So in the bill right now, it says, let me pull it up, I'm so sorry. It says, all senator and cabinet members shall participate in a minimum of 2 credits per semester. It does not say outreach credits anywhere. I did not intend for us to even have outreach credits. I wanted us to be doing credits that benefit the student body that aren't necessarily tied to outreach in any way, because I think that we should be encouraging and rewarding the work that we do that is not strictly related to outreach.
So with that, would those projects just count as the credits then, and not specifically outreach credits?
Yes, I would say. So you're talking about the project that you're doing with student athletes? Right, so I would say that if you are going out of your way to benefit the student body, if I were the person giving the discretion, personally I would count that, especially because, once again, I'm going to reiterate, it says activities shall include but not be limited to outreach opportunities and participating in events put on by student government. So this will, one of the examples of a credit would be outreach, but it is not limited to strictly outreach. These are just credits that you can earn, that you're required to earn 2 of. That's how I would respond to that. So yeah, I would give you credits on those events.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Carter.
Yeah, I agree with Senator Lent in that I don't know what this amendment is trying to accomplish that isn't already being accomplished with the verb engaging. You could honestly, I think if you threw in a with after engaging, it would do everything that the amendment is trying to do. Additionally, I would be hesitant to open it up as broadly as Senator Hayes is suggesting. I agree with the intent. I understand that. But at the same time, I think that the problem lies with how we're defining outreach as opposed to how we're defining credits. Because if we define outreach in terms of like specifically outreach events, well then yeah, we're only talking about outreach events, but events where student members can attend, those are also outreach events. And so I think that the problem is perhaps not with, do you know what I mean? Like I think outreach, I agree with the intent of broadening out outreach, but at the same time, I think that if you extend it to just anything that benefits the student body, whether they're present or not, that risks it being far too broad. And at that point, it's like, I mean, isn't being in student government like the credits? Like we're getting moral credits for this, right? Anyway, I'll yield.
We're still on the amendment, just to clarify. All right. Senator Rios.
So on the amendment, I agree with Lynn on like making it as concise as possible. And then if we could add the with and then remove or, so that we have the aspect of engaging and serving. So because if we only keep it either or, then someone serving just like in an activity without engaging with the student could be like, oh, then it should be counted as outreach, even though they're not engaging. So to summarize, add the with, include, and then remove or and add an and.
Are you making a motion for that?
Oh, I mean, it was a suggestion, but yeah, I can make a motion. But I would have to wait until this amendment.
Can you say that a little bit louder? Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
No, my bad. That was a suggestion, but I can make a motion. But I think I would have to wait until this one goes through, right?
You can make an amendment to the amendment, or you can wait and do a new amendment after this one passes or fails. Question has been called for on the amendment and seconded. Any objection to voting now? We're voting on the amendment originally proposed by debate. We'll do a placard vote for this one. Please vote yes, no, or abstain. We'll begin with yeses. Is yours placard up? Okay. Noes? Abstentions. Of a vote of 2 to 24 to 1, the amendment fails.
Oh, okay. I would like to make an amendment.
All right.
Yeah, like I said, just add the with after engaging and then remove the or and include an and.
Could you say I move to do what the screen reflects?
I move to do what the screen reflects.
All right, there's been a motion to amend what the screen reflects. Is there a second? Any objection? We'll go into a discussion period on that amendment. Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? We'll do a roll call vote for the amendment. This is for the amendment, so please vote yes, no, or abstain. Advate. Adagarla. Ulrich.
Yes.
Brecht.
No.
Carter.
Yes.
Claiborne.
No.
Crab. No. DeVore.
No.
Finaldi. No. Hayes.
Yes.
Larson.
Yes.
Lent.
No.
Mahoney.
Yes.
Rios.
Yes.
McCready.
No.
Paulson. Rizvik. Ruley.
No.
Seth.
Yes.
Simmons.
Yes.
Skaggs.
Yes.
Stout.
No.
Thornton.
No.
Wagmeister.
No.
Weathers.
Yes.
Yang.
Yeah.
Zuber.
Yes.
Patel.
Yes.
Of a vote of 16 to 11 to 0, the amendment passes. Back on the main motion, once again. Speaker Weathers.
I move to add the phrase that earn credits after the word activities.
It's been a motion to add that earns credits on 15. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is any objection? We'll go into a discussion period on that. Question has been called for and seconded. Any objection to voting now? Unanimous consent has been called for. Any objection to adding the amendment unanimously? All right, the amendment's been added. Back on the main motion once again. Senator DeVore.
Yeah, I had a question for Senator Hayes. You made the comment earlier that your original intent with the bill was not to create outreach credits, but just to create activity credits. And I understand that changing that to an outreach credit was a rules suggestion. I also understand that rules is not supposed to change the intent of a bill. So I guess my question is to Senator Hayes, did rules change the intent of your bill? And then a follow-up question to Speaker Weathers. If that is the case, then does this bill need to be sent back to rules?
So, as it stands currently, I do not see where it says outreach credit. Could you show me the language that you're referring to? Because, okay, if you're referencing where it says activities that earn credits shall include but not be limited to outreach opportunities and participating in events put on by student government, I think that that's broad enough to just touch on like that it includes outreach, and stuff like that. But that's really more of just like a suggestion as to like what an event might count as. I think that, I've been using like some of the same examples all night, but whether it comes to, cleaning up campus or which might not involve any students being present, or whether it comes to registering voters or whether it comes to tabling. I think these should all be looked at as equal events deserving of credit in order to fulfill these credits. I think these credits should not be focused on outreach. I think that they should be focused on activities that we are all passionate about equally, and that includes the totality of student government's role on campus.
Okay, thank you. But just to clarify, you do not believe that Rules Committee changed the overall intent of your bill?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Because I guess then to carry on in discussion, the second sentence in 15.4.1 states that activities that earn credits shall include but not be limited to outreach opportunities, and then it goes on to state some other things, but I guess that's misleading or confusing to me because it specifically states outreach opportunities, and maybe that's only confusing to me, but I yield.
Senator Lent.
In the time that we've been discussing this, we'd be able to have achieved a credit, outreach or otherwise. So I think everyone knows how they're going to be voting on this, so we can be as nitpicky as we want. But I personally would like to call the question.
Question has been called for and seconded. Is there any objection to voting now? All right, there's been an objection. Do you withdraw your motion? So we'll go ahead and, do you withdraw your motion? Okay, we'll go ahead and debate that now. Debate the objection. So state your point, Senator Hayes.
All right, I think following Senator DeVore's last point, I think that if we did want to clarify this just to make everything simple and also keep the bylaws as short as possible, something I would like to see might be removing the shall include but not be limited to yada, 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 and just keep it so that activities engaging with and serving the student body in a student-facing manner shall be the primary purpose of the credit earning activity. That way it eliminates the confusion of what might be considered. It eliminates the language that muddles it, that speaks of some activities but eliminates other, but we just didn't mention others. I think that this would be a healthy amendment to clarify and keep it as concise as possible And that includes us not voting on the bill as a whole right now, but taking another 3 minutes to maybe make that amendment and clarify some things and making it better for the future.
Senator Rios.
Point of information, we're still on.
We're on the objection right now. We're debating whether or not we should keep debating this. So sustaining the objection would be we'd keep debating.
Yeah.
If the objection does not pass, we will go to a vote.
Yeah, then I would just like to remind senators that this body is here to deliberate on bills like this. We're not here to just go this through as quickly as possible. Our job is to make questions and think about this through, even if it seems like we're being nitpicky. Also, we are in this conversation, so we understand the context. But remember, this is going to be written, and the future generation of senators may not understand the vocabulary as clear as we do. And Senator Lind, like, this would not count as an outreach credit because we're not talking to the body. So I don't know, maybe you could go back and like make sure that you understand the vocabulary.
Speaker Weathers.
Anyone feel free to call Jermaine on me if you'd like to, but I believe the reason that Senator Hayes objected was that the language isn't clear. So if I may attempt to clarify it, and in doing so, hopefully my desire would be to go to a vote because I don't believe the language as it stands right now is unclear. Activities that earn credits shall include outreach opportunities and participating in events. And then, so that's its own thing, and then engaging with and serving the student body has to apply to all of those, if that makes sense. So everything after the comma applies to all of these events. Shall include but not be limited to are just examples of events. Maybe that made it less clear, but I apologize.
Senator Yang.
I think the reason Daniel objected is because he's willing to compromise and help satisfy some of your concerns. So that's worth continuing the discussion for. So, yeah.
Question has been called for and seconded. We're going to go ahead and vote on that objection. So voting yes for this, and if the objection sustains, means that we will keep debating. Voting no means we will move to a vote if that wins. So we'll go ahead and go into a roll call vote for this one. So please vote yes, no, or abstain for this objection. Senator Advait. Atagarla. No. Ulrich. No. Brecht. No. Blythe. Carter. Claiborne. Cooper. Crab. DeVore. No. Filippi. Finaldi. Hayes. Larson. Lent. Mahoney. Rios. McCready.
No.
Paulson. Risvik. Ruley. Seth. Simmons. Skaggs. Stout. No. Thornton. No. Wagmeister. Yes. Weathers. No. Yang. Zuber. Yes. Patel. Of a vote of 13 to 14 to 0, the amendment fails, or the objection fails, which means we'll go ahead and go into a voting period. So because this is a bylaw change, we will be doing a roll call vote once again for this one. So please vote yes, no, or abstain. This is on the bill as a whole. Yes. So we'll move into closing comments before the roll call vote.
Okay. I feel like we all already heard it. I've talked a million times. But yeah, so I guess if I were to go back and say anything, I guess going back to Kit, when you asked about your meetings that you were having, just talking about this, I guess if you were to have a program that you put on with the student athletes, I would count that. I don't think the meetings leading up to that event would count as a credit, at least if it was under my discretion. Let's see if I have anything else I wrote down, that'd be great. Going back to address some of Christian's concerns. Yeah, we just sat 6 at-large to PR committee, so hopefully they can assist with those strictly outreach-focused events. Another suggestion is that back when in 2017, when I joined PR committee, it was my first position in student government. I was an outreach ambassador, and that was like my strict role, was just doing outreach, so there might be something to look into there. But yeah, so we have a lot of strictly outreach-focused events, but the rest of our events show the student body who we are as well. I know we've been recently very interested in this, but putting our name on things is a tremendous way to demonstrate what student government is capable of. And I think that if we are going to sign up for something, it doesn't necessarily have to be outreach. I think that we want to encourage, I do not want to encourage strictly outreach activities over the rest of our affairs, which is what the intent of this bill was to reward everybody for their individual passions in student government, not just for the outreach-related activities or strictly outreach activities. But I think that there's a lot that we do here that I find valuable, that the student body finds valuable, and I know everybody here is passionate about, that might not be strictly rewarded or encouraged under the current language that we have in Chapter 15, which is why I proposed this amendment. So I will still be voting yes on the amendment, but I hope that you guys have all made up your own minds too. Thanks.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to a roll call vote. Please vote yes, no, or abstain. Advait. Atagarla. Brett. No. Carter. Claiborne. No. Crab. No. DeVore.
No.
Finaldi. No. Hayes. Yes. Larson. Lent. Mahoney. Rios. McCready.
Yes.
Paulson. Ruley. No. Seth. Simmons. Yes. Skaggs. Yes. Stout. No. Thornton. Yes. Wagmeister. Yes. Weathers. Yes. Yang. Yes. Zuber. Yes. Patel. Ulrich, excuse me. Of a vote of 13 to 10 to 4, the bill passes. Okay, excuse me, sorry. So 13 would not be, so this would fail since it does not have 2/3 majority vote, excuse me. That was only 48% of the vote, which would not be 2/3. Thank you for the clarification. All right, moving on to new business, 2021-2-028F, funding ASL interpreter with Senator Claiborne.
Yeah, so the bill is pretty self-explanatory. Chase Krug emailed the Finance Committee with a great opportunity to have a American Sign Language interpreter during the debates, which obviously is a cool opportunity, and I am supportive, but we will see this during Finance next week.
Any questions of intent for Senator Claiborne? Moving on to 2021-2-029F, funding SHOP with Vice Speaker Crabb.
Hi, we've done a lot of discussion recently about food insecurity on campus. This bill would be donating $12,000 to SHOP. A big part of this would be $2,000 of going to multicultural food items. I'm really excited for this bill next week. Thank you. I yield.
2021-2-080Y, restructuring Senate committees and Senator committee involvement with Senator DeVore.
Yeah, so the intent of this bill stemmed from Conversations and Rules Committee about some issues we were seeing with committee, the way committees were going on this year. So a good problem that we're having is we're filling a lot more of the Senate seats than usual. But the problem that's creating is these senators that we are appointing here later in the session are finding it difficult to find a seat on a committee. The reason for that is several senators in this body, which is a good thing, are serving on several committees. So the intent of this bill is to appropriate senators to fewer committees, which will hopefully allow more open seats on these committees for senators, these new senators, to find a room on committees. So if you look down through before next week, you'll see that we changed several of the numbering for the committees for senators as well as the at-large positions. It was brought to my attention after the bill was drafted that we need to make sure we have an odd number of seats on every committee, so we will be doing some amending to fix that issue. I believe that's all I have with that. I will accept questions of intent.
Senator Simmons.
Yeah, do you intend to add university committees to 3.5.3 with Senate and executive committees? In the second ordered clause.
Will you please restate your question?
Do you intend to add university committees to that list?
No.
Okay, that was it.
Senator Thornton.
Do you intend to have forced resignations this year?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't quite hear you.
Do you intend to have forced resignations from senators this year for those that are involved in more than two committees?
No.
Senator Dvait. Senator Rios.
Did you talk to the committee directors regarding this bill? All of them?
No.
Senator Paulson.
Did you purposely leave out finance and civic engagement committee?
Yes.
Senator Claiborne.
Did the current numbers of committees this year, overall total number, change?
Could you please restate the question?
So like, are the the total numbers of committees, like committee members, different from this bylaw bill that we have to what is required now?
Yes.
Senator Dvait.
Seeing as the stated intent of the bill was to open up more committee seats for more senators to fill, was it the intent to reduce seats on certain committees?
Yes.
I yield.
Seeing no further questions of intent for Senator DeVore, we'll go ahead and move on to 2021-2-031Y, putting the Director of Marketing in the bylaws with Senator Mahoney.
So this is a pretty simple bylaw change. It's basically giving the Director of Marketing an actual position in the bylaws. In effect, this just makes the executive order from last year actually in our bylaws and allows him to actually vote on his committee.
Any questions of intent? Seeing none, we'll move ahead to 2021-2-033Y, adding the Director of Student Services to the bylaws with Senator Dvait.
So we recently discovered that the position of the Director of Student Services as it currently exists is on somewhat shaky legal grounds. We all seem to be operating under the assumption that it was in the bylaws, but fun fact, it isn't. And the last executive order we could find was signed in 2017, so that situation needs to be fixed. That's what this bill does. We will be discussing this in rules. I yield.
Great. We'll go ahead and move on to closing announcements. Does anyone have any closing announcements? Senator Hayes.
Hey, y'all. Good discussion on the amendment. Glad we all had our way. I'm okay with it. I'm just glad that we had a good whatever. In other words, here we go. What I wanted to really update everybody on was, I guess I haven't talked about curriculum committee yet this term. And for those who don't know, curriculum committee is a faculty senate committee that recommends and develops policies and procedures for university-wide curricula, reviews catalog offerings and degree requirements, and initiates discussions on future curricular matters. Julia sent them my name in early September. I was invited to sit on the committee, and the rest is history. It's like we're an old married couple. Some of the curriculum updates the university is currently working on is adding a healthcare management major, which is expected to be a big step ahead of our competitors in the academic scene, as the job market is supposed to grow over 15% in the next 10 years. We are also adding a science communication certificate. And then another couple projects are we're also looking at a way to standardize how credits transfer over from other universities before any discussion comes into play, as right now credit transfers are inconsistent even amongst our own colleges. And just today we had some very exciting curriculum changes that were introduced, but have not yet been decided on. There was talk of changing the course title of our beloved Library 160 from Information Literacy to Introduction to College Level Research. I know the university's totally different from what I have known, but yeah. And then we also looked at allowing students with associate degrees to receive certificates without needing them to earn a baccalaureate. And lastly, just to show that our input does count and that we have say, today I brought up adding a Canvas course similar to the sexual assault prevention course that is currently available on Canvas and is an optional course right now for students to talk about, or for an optional course that students can take. But we were talking about adding a DE&I teaching about DE&I through a Canvas course. And there seemed to be a lot of positive feedback. They said that that it was probably going to end up being something that if we worked on it, it could get accomplished, despite some of the recent Iowa laws that were passed. And yeah, I was just really happy to see that what I had to say mattered, and some of the events coming out of the town hall, out of the multicultural town hall, had are coming into fruition, at least that I am currently working on. But yeah, that's what's going on in curriculum committee. And just a reminder to everybody that Julia will talk about this later, but in her newsletter there will be feedback on our resolution that we passed a couple weeks ago. I've looked at it, strong opinions about it. Everybody else should take a look at it too. But yeah, thank you all for a very thorough discussion today.
Senator Advait.
Do you know what time it is? It's lectures time. Coming up on the 14th of October, 2021, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., we have Cyclones Engaging in Innovation at Boeing by Kristen Crawford and Matt England. These are both aerospace alumni, and especially for all the engineers at home, this is a great talk to go to. This will be on Zoom, so it's all the more easy to attend this. After that, we have Good Bad People, a photoethnography of methamphetamine use in rural Alabama by Heath Copes on the 14th of October, 2021 at 7 p.m. That will be in the sunroom of the Memorial Union. After that, we have Building on an Ethical Foundation by Elena Money-Garman on the 15th of October, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. in the Student Innovation Center. After that, we have Building Relationships with External Innovation Partners by Dr. Akshay Sharma on the 15th of October, 2 p.m. to 3:15 p.m. This will be over Zoom. Lastly, we have Utopia, Dystopia, and Ethical Weightlessness, Cosmological Reconfigurations in Post-Soviet Cuban Fiction by Dr. Odette Casimir Cisneros on the 15th of October from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. This is also on Zoom, and the link is on, as always, on the website, which is lectures.iastate.edu. Other than that, thank you again for a great discussion tonight. As always, if you want to write a bill, if you have an initiative, anything that I can help with, I'm more than happy to do that and sit down and have that discussion with you. And take care of yourself as we go further into the semester. I yield.
Senator Rios.
So I wanted to tell everyone that next week we're going to have a working meeting, and that's going to be 1 hour before the Senate meeting. So if you could put that in your calendars, we're going to be discussing microaggressions, and the presentation is going to be tailored to student government specific and how we communicate with our constituents and other people in general. So yeah, like I said, 1 hour before a student meeting next week. Thank you. Oh, and will it be here, Elian Crab? Yep, it'll be here. Thank you.
Senator Zuber.
I know I've spoken with many of you on my project for the Student Government Discord server. I finally started to get off the ground with that. I'd like to thank Senator Rizvik for kind of giving me the reins on the previous Discord server that I believe the judicial branch created last year. And I'll be posting a link to it in the group me. It's still under construction. I'm still working on it, so I have some stuff to work out on it. But you can access it through your phone, computer, or even through like a browser. So everybody should be able to get on it. But I do recommend getting on your phone because then you get notifications all the way to your phone. I just intend for it to be a new platform that we can communicate with each other on. It'll make things a little bit easier. If any of you have used Slack, it's very similar to that, but it has a lot more features than something like GroupMe. So I think it'll be more useful. In future, I also plan to make it a platform where students can be on there with us, but as it's still under construction, I'm not opening it up to students yet. And also, if any of you have any suggestions for it, please let me know.
Senator Larson.
I just have a question about earlier. Somebody was talking about doing tabling events. Is there a document where we can sign up for that? And where would I find that document?
That's on the MIS, so you should have it shared with you on Google Drive. It's an Excel file, and it'll have a lot of information about everyone's in student government's contact information, and then there should be a tab with tabling. There is a tab right now for tabling, I believe, on the MIS. It's in the new senator packet as well that you should have received. So if you have trouble finding it, we can always help you, but it should be shared with you on the drive.
Perfect, thank you.
Senator Patel.
Hi, I just want to say thank you guys. I'm really excited to work with you guys, and I'm excited for the next meeting. Yay, thank you.
All right, we'll just go down this back table. We can start at Elizabeth and work our way down.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to let you guys know that on October 25th from 6 to 7:30, the Ames Climate Action Plan team, which includes members from the City Council, the steering committee, and then the consulting group that they're working with, is having a community energy and emissions inventory and business as usual workshop. So basically that'll be just an opportunity for the public to ask questions about the data that they have related to business as usual emissions, and then that information and the public feedback will be used to inform the writing of the Ames Climate Action Plan. If you just Google Ames Climate Action, you can find information about the website, and then there's also a survey. Iowa State students make up a huge portion of the Ames population, so student input is super important for this. So if you have an opportunity to fill out that survey, I highly encourage you all to do that.
Hi everyone. For once, I actually didn't have anything that I was going to say during closing announcements, but I did have one senator text me because they said that, because they recognized this is something that I've talked about before. If you're abstaining, it counts as a no. If you're abstaining, it counts as a no. So if you genuinely do not have an opinion on a matter and it is an important vote, remove yourself from the roll. It's not something you should be proud of, but you've been elected or appointed to represent your constituents. If you abstain, you're not making a decision while also making a decision of no. So please Do not abstain unless you have a particular vested interest in a vote. If you would benefit directly from a vote, one example of a good abstention, when my first year in Senate, I knew that I'd be interested in being finance director in the future. There was a bill to raise the scholarship of the finance director from 3/4 to 1. Both me and then Senator Klass, who was finance director last year, abstained on that vote. That's a good example. But if you're just not sure, that's not what abstentions are for. If somebody wants to write a bylaw bill changing how we count abstentions, that'd be great. Talk to rules. I actually thought about doing that last year because it would be nice if you were able to say, I don't have an opinion on this and I don't want my vote to be counted, but that's not the system that we have right now. So please consider that.
All right, I got two things. First, believe it or not, I have something to say about SciRide. The board voted today to extend the $1,000 bonus to lane workers. So if anyone here has been just itching to work in the lanes at SciRide HQ, you can get a $1,000 bonus for signing on. It's mostly late night shifts or early morning shifts, so great for your midday schedule. And if you're still thinking about being a driver with SciRide, those slots are still open. I really encourage you to spread it around if you have friends who are looking for jobs. SciRide's super flexible with hours, and we need drivers because the more drivers we have, the more buses we can put on the road. And so if you've been upset about congestion, it's because we don't have enough drivers. So, if you know a friend who needs a job, have them talk to SciRide. And then second, I know it went out in the group chat yesterday, but I'd just like to recognize Sophie. Yesterday was her 1 year with student government. She's been a huge help since she came on last year, and I know she's going to be a massive help in the future. And every time I have a question, or I think I messed something up, or I think I might mess something up, or someone else messed something up, I go to Sophie, and she usually has an answer and can fix it. So I just want to thank Sophie for everything she's done, and I know she's going to continue to be a great resource.
All right, a couple closing announcements. Number one, to touch on Dan's comments, I will be attaching a PDF document that has feedback from external figures. Number one, Jamie Pollard, our athletics director at Iowa State, has a breakdown of some information. Callie Sanders is, I believe, the associate athletic director, and also an external person outside of the university. I would encourage you all, please, to take a look at those comments. And also, just for your awareness, I'm happy to answer any questions or direct you to individuals that are able to answer any questions you might have. On the same topic of Big 12 expansion, just for your awareness, we did send an email to the current student government presidents of the new 4 schools that will be admitted to the Big 12 Athletics Conference in 2023, extending a welcome. This will be a collaborative relationship over the next couple years, and as universities, we want to assist with their transition in any way, and again, work collaboratively towards uplifting students together. So that would be my announcement on that. Again, reach out with questions. And I do want to extend a welcome to Senator Patel, as well as all of the new PR committee members. Looking forward to working with you this year. Thank you.
Just a quick announcement for senators. Julie and I sent out a doodle poll, I think it was the end of last week, with meetings we want to have before Thanksgiving break, and about half of everyone has filled it out. So if we could fill that out by Friday, that'd be awesome. We'd like to meet with you all, and if none of the times work, please email us and let us know, and we'd be happy to find another time just to have a touch point throughout the semester and see what we can help you with and what maybe you can help us with as well. So please fill that out, and we look forward to those meetings starting next week. So I'll go ahead and go to Vice Speaker Crabb for their closing announcements.
All right. Speaking on to what President Campbell just said about adding the other 4 schools, inviting them through student government. Coming out day was October 11th, and I just want to say that no matter where you stand in that process, I want to let you know that you have a safe spot with me, and if you have any questions or you just need someone to talk to, myself or Speaker Weathers are here for you. Also, other questions on Cardinal Eats bill today, I really like them. I really like that you're interested about where things are going, how, and the publication in general. I love that publication. Also, we're getting ahead of Parley Pro. I heard so many seconds and UCs and everything, and that's really cool. So, and then also regarding the bill that we saw tonight, so we did, for the Outreach and Transparency Committee, we saw that presentation given by our Director of Diversity and Inclusion, Flores, at the beginning of the school year. We did have the outreach credits on there in the beginning. We were asking if there were any questions. We wanted committee leaders to come talk to us. There's a lot, we wanted you all to come talk to us because we came to you. We would have liked to see, at least I would have liked to see maybe more conversation, so we wouldn't have had to spend as much time as we have on the past couple bills that we've seen. So when people are presenting, because a lot of the stuff is going to come to legislation, ask questions during that time, form your opinions and talk to us so we don't have to spend too much time when we could be helping other students. But yeah, that's all I have, and I'll pass it to Speaker Weathers.
We have one more back here, if that's okay. We'll go before. Director of Marketing, Garmin.
Hello, everyone. Just to kind of piggyback off of what Julia said at the beginning of the meeting about being an election official, the city school election is coming up November 2nd, and the Story County Auditor's Office is always looking for individuals to work, specifically students, to work at the different precincts in Ames and around Story County. You get paid $10 an hour, and you can either do full days or do half days. But so if you are interested in doing that, it's a great volunteer opportunity. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Also, I want to say, if someone that's not a student government senator comes up to you with a bill already written, try to maybe work through that and construct it with them. I know that I had a really difficult time learning how to write bills my first year and third year. So it's going to be very helpful if someone comes to you and wants something done. Have them talk you through that process instead of them having them hand you a bill, because we want all of you to get very good at writing bills as well. So just make sure to keep that in mind if someone does approach you.
Yeah, I would second Vice Speaker Crabb's point there. You all were elected or appointed as senators to represent the student body and write Senate bills, so that is your duty. On a more pressing note, I have to use the bathroom like you wouldn't believe. So go Cyclones, move to adjourn.
Is there a second? Any objection? All right, meeting is adjourned.